It's a really beautiful day here in the allotment of Knapway, which is one of the allotments owned and managed by Malvern Town Council. It's very early spring and seasonably mild, and I'm wanting to show you this one plot in particular that used to be rented by a man who went by the name of Mucker, and it was very much a case of mucker by name, mucker by nature. And so I'm going to show you a bit of the size of this plot first of all, and then just remind ourselves of the terms of the tenancy agreement that tenants of the plots have to sign up to when they are allocated a plot. So this plot that was rented by Mucker must have been the largest of all of the plots on site, so it was conveniently located right next to the gate, and we can see some vestiges of Mucker's work here that's left. So here's shed 1, and then there's shed 2, and it extended all the way from here right up to the fence that you can see there, which you couldn't see before for reasons I will explain later, but now it's possible to see it all the way along down to here. This is now this section here that we can see is now rented by the brother-in-law of the said Mucker. So the plot went all the way along here and then went extended right up to the other side, except for one tiny section, and it's now been divided into 3. So this plot, you can see this lovely plastic here that I mentioned in the film, it finishes here, and then we have another plot here which is rented by another person, and then the plot that I'm now renting with a friend is over by the fence. And when we first acquired this plot, this section here was really full of brambles as high as that fence, so you couldn't see the fence. But that wasn't the concern of mine. What was a concern was the amount of rubbish that could be seen behind a fence that had been placed along here by the town council. We've had to remove the fence in order to remove a lot of this rubbish that I'm going to show you that we've removed from this section here and far up. But before I do that, I wanted to just go back over some of the terms of the tenancy agreement to provide a bit of context. I also need to, before I forget, to show you these tyres that we found on the section I'm going to show you. So those were 2 of the probably only useful things that we've managed to recover so far that we'll be able to use as a large planter. I think pretty much everything else is just destined for the tip. So the tenancy agreement for the lot garments issued by Malvern Town Council are very short. It's only extend over 2 pages of A4 and written in very simple English. And it says the allotment garden shall be kept in a clean, decent and good condition, properly cultivated. And it mentions the buildings, which I won't go into today, and that the tenant shall cultivate the allotment for and shall use it only for the production of fruit, vegetables and flowers. And finally, that all the waste material, sorry, this is rather inconvenient when I'm doing it like this, all waste, this is becoming a bit of a joke that I'm doing here, just turn it over, that'd be more useful. So here we are. All waste material should be either composted on site or removed to an official recycling centre. Okay, all waste materials should either be composted on site or removed to an official recycling centre, of which there is one in Malvern. It's not that we are lacking such a facility. And if a tenant shall have been in breach of any of the foregoing provisions of the agreement for a period of 14 days or longer, the council may re-enter upon the allotment garden, and the tenancy should thereupon come to an end, without prejudice to any right of the council to claim damages for any such breach, and recover any such rent, and so on. So there we have it, they're quite clear, as I said. And so now I'm going to take you to back to this section of the plot, which as I said, was had a fence in front, and I'm going to include some photos so you'll be able to see. And behind the fence could be seen a number of very large items of waste, including actually that compost bin to the far left, which was thrown in there, covered up by and soil and so on, but was visible. So the fence started about here at this point, and what we've managed to do so far is we've cleared up to this point, and I'm going to show you the amount of rubbish that we've actually pulled out from this area, which was used by the tenant to fly tip, essentially. And this was done in the knowledge of the officers of the town council, so they were aware of what was happening. So we've also managed to clear a lot here on this side, and this was somewhat easier to achieve. The worst is going to be behind this quite dense pile here. We've removed this section. This came right up to was much higher here as well, so we're sort of moving our way in slowly. So from this side here, a number of things have been taken to the tip already. I've absolutely no idea what this piece of waste is. It's quite heavy. You can see there's pieces of corrugated iron. This is a metal door that was actually found down below where I've shown you earlier. Corrugated iron, pieces of wood, it's all post. And then we've pulled out lots and lots of pieces of wood from pallets and so on. You can see some plastic there. So there were 2 containers full of rubbish, mainly plastic, that have been removed. And the size of the objects we've removed have varied. And before I go down and show you some of the individual objects, I want to show you one of the things that is particularly offensive, and it's this netting here, of which we've pulled out a fair amount. But this soil here, which is very dense, you can see another bit here, is absolutely riddled with this netting. And you speak to anyone who knows anything about wildlife, in particular hedgehogs, and they will tell you how particularly treacherous that is to hedgehog. Any hedgehog going by, and this is obviously in a site that'd be very attractive to hedgehogs, will get one of their legs, at least one, tangled into that netting, and that will cause them very serious and painful damage, and that will be fatal to that hedgehog. Unless they get urgent treatment, but it would usually be fatal. You can see in here that if I get closer, that the soil is actually really layers. It's got layers and layers of plastic waste in amongst this soil. So it's not just simply a mound of soil that we've got to clear. It's over. Well, it's probably more than 10 years worth of waste. Here we are. Look. Plastic bottles sticking out. We've got some plastic waste there, bits there. Now, the trouble with plastic in particular is that it can often, as it's brittle, break up. The thinner it is. We've got a nice shard of glass there. Look, I've already removed lots of that. Got plenty of this sort of stuff to pull out. More of this waste here. So you can see in amongst the soil, it's just, that's mixture of glass and plastic to remove. Got lots and lots of here we are. Here's a good example. So this is possibly a plastic milk bottle, but for some strange reason this mucker seemed to consume very large quantities of milk and disposed of the milk bottles in this plot. Now, had the council done something about it, after those sort of first 14 days of fly tipping, we wouldn't be faced with this particular problem. But as we've got over 10 years worth of this sort of waste, it's broken up and it's very, very difficult for us to remove. We're going to have to sieve the soil, but it makes the smaller these pieces, the worse it is for the wildlife. And I'm I'll have to put some gloves on in order to show you some of this stuff possibly. But we've got this sort of metal collection over here, because I try and make sure that we dispose of these things in as best as possible at the tip. So a range of metal tools. We've got a fork there, fish slice. I have no idea what this object here is. I don't know whether it's still, I know that's clearly a goner. This old chair here. I've actually found these pots that we will be able to make use of giveaway. Number of pairs of shoes. I think we've got about 3 in total. I have absolutely no idea. I keep finding these wretched things and I've absolutely no idea what they are. Lots of pieces of that corrugated plastic that you find. Plenty of pieces of glass. You can see more there. There's either glass jars and bottles, which are rather easier to remove, or very dangerous pieces of glass. Lots and lots of this sort of blue, like a kind of maybe crate. I don't know what I use them for, but there's lots of them. They're all broken up and entangled in here. Now here's one of my favourites. This would be absolutely perfect for a place for, material for a hedgehog to meet its death. Maybe some other kind of animal as well, because of the extent to which they'd get entangled in all of those pieces of string and plastic and so on. We've got one CD there. The videos that we've found, old style videos, they've already been taken to the tip. We didn't dare to have a look at try and play one of them, because who knows what would have been on them, were they been possible to function. We've got lots and lots of plastic cups, in spite of the fact that there's actually perfectly decent cup from a coffee flask there, and we've also got a ceramic mug lying around somewhere. I am going to have to put my gloves in a minute. We've got lots of this sort of more rigid mesh, and then lots of the smaller mesh. Lots and lots of small bits of plastic that we've had to pull out, very tiny bits, which just makes it very, very time consuming. More of these plastic bottles. Here we've got more. So this great big large rock we've had to remove. This is absolutely, enormous. And then you've got these cement blocks here. Lots of bits of rubble. Obviously that's much easier for us to remove than the smaller bits of glass and plastic. So as I said, this was seen by the council, and they'd actually put this fence across to divide it from this separate plot here, and it was allowed, and the tenant was able to keep this very large expansive area. This goes all the way down here, as his plot for many years, until he actually died. So he was never evicted, he was never fined for fly tipping, and he was just allowed to continue to dump his rubbish in that corner, and to therefore really seriously contaminate a very large section. You can see it's a very large area. Now when we raised this issue with the council and showed them photos of the waste, they weren't at all interested, the town council, in removing it. They just said it was, been there for years, and that, no one was being charged for it, and therefore, it was not considered a problem. But a number of us pay taxes to the town council, those of us who live in Malvern, and I think most of us would expect the town council to make sure that its land is used in a way that is appropriate, and that if there is land that can be used for gardening and for which rent can be maintained, then they should do so. Hello, I'm just doing a little film here about what's going on. Is there anything about what's going on with this? Yes. Oh no, sorry. So So you can see that the council didn't evict this person, and in fact what they also did was allow the named associate, the brother-in-law of the said mucker, to take over the largest portion of the plot in order to continue to leave large amounts of rubbish and to leave these sheds full of further amounts of rubbish. And I don't really consider that most people in Malvern consider this to be an acceptable way to manage an allotment site.